the Team Performance Podcast with Spencer Horn and Christian Napier. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Team Performance Winning Ways for Uncertain Times podcast. I'm Christian Napier, and I am joined, as always, by the man in the traditional royal purple, the brains of the operation, Spencer Horn. Spencer, how are you?
Great. Good morning, Christian. How are you?
I am doing tremendously at this early hour, 8 o'clock in the morning. I guess it's not too early, but it's early enough for us. Spencer, it's great to see you as always. I always enjoy our time. And before we started recording, you showed me some interesting gadgets that you've got.
Well, I'm just excited. I have this new Logitech Brio camera, and then I have a whole switching deal so I can get to my more DSLR camera. The problem is I can't get the little square off my face right now, and so I can't use it. But it's really cool because it blurs everything, and that square is focusing on me, and one of the things that I'm so proud of, my nose is big enough that it can focus exactly on. It just doesn't confuse the technology. It just makes everything look so nice. Anyway, just having fun with the technology.
I think it's a great assist to the viewer in case they can't figure out where you are in frame.
Right.
Oh, he's in the square. That's okay. Now I know where I'm supposed to. Yeah, that's the kind of helicopter technology that we need these days to help guide.
That's right. Yeah, all automated stuff. I don't need to know how to run anything.
Well, I'm really excited for our next guest. He is coming, I guess, from the longest distance that we've ever had on this podcast. You know, sometimes we have people here locally to Utah. Sometimes it's just us. Sometimes we're talking to someone from Las Vegas or something. But we've got a very special guest from the opposite side of the world. Spencer, why don't you introduce him?
Yes, so happy to have my friend Fahad Ahmed with us today. And Fahad is coming to us from Karachi, Pakistan. Now, Fahad, you and I, we met several years ago through a Leadership Institute masterclass that is sponsored by Project Management Institute, which is an organization that has about 6 million members around the world. But in order to participate in this Leadership Institute masterclass, you basically have to apply and be approved. But Fahad, because of his leadership in PMI Karachi, you're the past president for like 7 years. Is that right, Fahad?
Yeah, I've been with the chapter for like 10 years.
10 years. And so because of his leadership, he was invited to come and participate. They take about a cohort of about 30 executives from all around the world, and they do a year-long program. And so you and I met at that program. How long has it been, Fahad?
It's been like 4 years now.
4 years, and so we had some fun and got to meet each other, and we've had some great interactions since then. And I've really come to appreciate Fahad and really his experience and his perspective. And so we're going to get to your topic in just a second, but I want people to know just a little bit about you. But as a project manager, you're certified as a project management professional. You have 16 years of experience in the field of project management, business analysis, software, quality assurance and testing, leadership experience, but also leading all stages of system developments, including requirements, definitions, designs, architecture, testing, and support. So it sounds like a lot of technical experience in making sure that products are developed and tested and work and are delivered to the customer appropriately. And in addition to that technical experience, you have a lot of leadership experience. As I said, you've been, associated with PMI for 10 plus years, right? And then as the president of that chapter, but also a leader in business and in your roles. And so you've worked in the financial sector at banks all around the world, and you have specialties in risk management, software quality assurance, which we've talked about, really people management and hiring, which is really the focus of our podcast. We really focus on team performance. And so what we're interested in today, Fahad, is how can, you have a topic that we're going to introduce in just a second. We're going to get to that. And it's about relationships and leadership. We want to know how your experience has helped you to really help teams perform at a higher level with your experience. But before we get to that, we want to hear how the current conditions have been impacting the economy, the people, you in Pakistan. What's going on with COVID, the economy? Give us a little snapshot.
First of all, thank you so much, Spencer, for the invitation. And thank you, Christian. It's been wonderful meeting you for the first time. Uh, like everybody else, we, like all of us in Pakistan, in Karachi, are going through the same situation. It's really tough times, like around the globe and similarly in Pakistan. Numbers are rising. And initially, we didn't actually took it very seriously that it's something that's really impact our lives, and it was like some kind of a people were not serious enough. But now when we see ourselves and our loved ones suffering from COVID, and we are hearing news of people who passing away. We know, like, we met them, we treated them, and we have interaction with them. And when we get the news, it's become really difficult for all of us. And with all of this, we are homebound and 24/7 in the one space, and emotions are really getting to our nerves now. So things are pretty tight actually. But again, with this point, in this tough time, you have to maintain your sanity, your emotions, and everything intact to be effective and useful. That is what we are actually learning as a society, because we are very emotional people when it comes to doing things, and even celebrations or whatever. As a nation, we are very emotional. So we tend to learn now. We tend to learn how to be more patient and control our emotions. That COVID has done to us. And economy, obviously, like every part of the world, it's kind of challenging situation for businesses here. Some businesses closing down. Some have cut their human resources. So people are definitely facing a lot of challenges, and along with everything, you've got responsibility, you've got projects, and you've got all other things professionally and personally that you have to deal with. So it's a new normal for everybody, for all of us, and we are learning a lot from it.
I just have a very quick question, Fahad. Did I understand correctly that you're still under lockdown, or the offices aren't open? Are people working from home primarily, or are people working from their place of business?
We are actually in the second phase of the lockdown. The lockdown eases, and everybody went out, and everybody started to act normal, like nothing happened. And the numbers quickly started rising, and there were a lot of deaths, and a lot of people getting infected from the virus. So the local government has imposed lockdown again, and it is safer for everybody, advised to stay home and work from home.
The Team Performance Podcast.
You talk about Pakistanis being an emotional people. I'm interpreting that as that you enjoy being social, you enjoy being together, you talk about celebrating, gathering together, and enjoying each other's company. And is that part of what you're talking about?
Yeah. The culture is very rich in terms of emotions. We tend to celebrate everything. We like to gather around, and we for even for smaller things, we make kind of celebrations, big celebrations. So when it comes to emotions, we are very expressive, and we are very we hook up with each other very quickly, and we try to make festivities really colorful.
So when you have your festivities, what's your favorite food? Christian and I love food. We love foreign
So
foods.
like
And yeah.
you must have heard about biryani. So it is like my favorite food. I can have it every day, like twice a day.
What is that? Describe it. Biryani?
Yeah, biryani. It's a combination of rice and meat, whether it's lamb or whether it's chicken, and it has a lot of spices added to it. So it's a very a special dish, but people love it so much that we tend to cook it like every other day or every Sunday or whatever you can say that.
It's only 8 o'clock in the morning here, but I'm already hungry for biryani. So
Right.
that's a fantastic description. I'm so happy that you brought that up. I love food from that region, so it's wonderful.
So let's talk about the subject that we have today on tap, and that is resilient relationships. And we want to talk about how this relates to team performance and just our overall well-being. You talked about how people are struggling right now emotionally to stay productive, to stay focused on thoughts and activities that will help us get through this. Why is this topic important to you, Fahad? What is it about it that you want to really dive into and share with our listeners today?
Uh, Thank you for bringing that up. For me, relationship is everything, whether it's personal or professional. Everything comes down how you connect with people and how what kind of relationship are you having with the other person. When we talk about leadership, when we talk about professional relationships, no matter how different in personalities you are, but again, if you have a common cause, common vision, you tend to bring people together and connect with them. And for that, you really have to have good relationship with them, right? Why? Because until unless you don't hook up with somebody from, from internally, you will never be able to get the productivity or whatever you say, the effectiveness you really want to have. Uh, I always describe a job like a marriage. Why? Because whenever two people get married, they come together, no matter how long you know each other, when you start living under the same roof for the first time, you tend to explore each other, right? There are a lot of similarities. Then suddenly you get to know that there are a lot of dissimilarities or something that makes you different from each other, right? Something you might dislike or something like you need to compromise upon. A job or a management position or a people management is exactly similar to that. Now, when you I meet for the first time, and I never know you, right? But you were kind of so you have such a vibrant personality that I immediately was attracted to you, and I tend to learn from you. But again, if think about somebody who's totally opposite to you, I will be totally distracted by the same person. So even if you are in a relationship in a professional capacity, a relationship means a lot to me, and it tends to do, you know, even I would like to use the word magic, because if you have a connection or relationship with somebody who is very different from you, or who is very uh, you know uh, even far apart from you, it tends to bring you on a common ground, and also work make you work together for certain things that individually you would not like to do.
You know, something,
So
Fahad, that you said that I thought was really impactful. Um, Working together, you know, we typically think of people, going in and performing their individual roles, but we call it team performance for a reason. And I think it's because when teams are performing at a high level, they exceed the sum of their parts, right? You can achieve more together than you could separately on your own, and together you become a new unit that can do even more. I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit more about that, Fahad. How people, when they are able to form these resilient relationships, can actually do a lot more together than they could by themselves.
Thank you, question. It's a great question. Actually, relationships are developed or built upon strengths, and that can only happen when you test somebody and have total confidence in other person's ability. Right? If like I met you for the first time, I met Spencer for the first time, and I can always be inspired by your personality. But again, it will never give me the confidence or the trust in your certain abilities until unless I would be able to experience it. Any given scenario, any adversity, or in even in a normal case, when somebody acts in a manner that matches your expectation, and you are suddenly overwhelmed by the action, by natural reaction of the action, and then because it connects you both naturally or unintentionally, that's where that good connection happens. See, if in our team environment, even if we tend to face people who are, I wouldn't say uh, who have a challenging personality but are different, right? We tend conscious effort to connect with them, trying to find common spots together and try to break small talks together and try to build that level of confidence that they can have in us and we can have in them, right? Only then, once you start doing that, that resilient part start to build. And even though that this is that's why you get to a point where you exactly know what in a given scenario what Christian will react and how Spencer will react and how Fahad will react. Nobody has to come to us and say like you have to do this. We have developed such a great relationship.
The Team Performance Podcast.
This metaphor of working together as marriage is interesting because it seems like there's been a lot of divorces lately with all the unemployment.
Yes, exactly. On a lighter note, nobody is actually is used to see his or her spouse 24/7 because everybody is under the same roof. Like it's challenging for both the parties. So people who are not very strong at heart give up, and there are a lot of divorces for that matter. But again, see, when you talk about this thing, is one thing that prolongs any relationship. It is that also very much important for the resilient part. It's the respect that you give other person, its opinion, its action, its reaction, it's whatever it is. You can love somebody, you can make somebody love you, but you cannot make somebody respect you if you don't have that within you, right? So most of the things or people splits or couple splits because they don't respect their other a partner's opinion, reactions, emotions, even mental well-being, and they tend to get very judgmental very easily. And when there is an imbalance in any relationship, you tend to live a different life or you become a different person. And that can only happen to a certain extent. For example, if you have a flat tire of your car and it has less air pressure, it can drag you to a certain extent. The moment it becomes totally flat, the car will stop, no matter how much newer car you have. Relationship exactly like this. You bear the burden to a certain extent. You become to you try to overcome that by becoming somebody else, and you keep on prolonging and drying that over and over again. And at one point, the pressure gets so much mounting, the tire becomes flat. That's why people split.
I I really like that analogy, Fahad, of the flat tire. You can drive for a little ways on a flat tire, even when it becomes completely flat. But then you start causing serious damage to the vehicle, right? and
Exactly.
and if you're not careful, then you can end up causing irreparable damage to the vehicle. On the flip side, one of the things that I really like about this topic that you're discussing is um, we can benefit so greatly from these resilient relationships. And you likened it to a marriage. Going through the COVID thing, Spencer has gone through this. You've probably gone through this. I certainly have gone through this where we've had a dramatic impact on our business as a result of COVID. And when it first started happening and I started losing business, I became quite anxious. And my wife, to her great credit, was a tremendous support to me through this time. And she believed in me because I think of what you just said, Fahad, which is you spent all this time building up this relationship of trust. And she basically looked at me and says, you know what, I trust you. We're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. And that to me is really the importance of a resilient relationship, is actually being able to survive or even thrive under adversity.
Thank you. That's very beautiful, and I totally agree with you. One thing I would like to mention here. Recently, I attended one of the Spencer's session where he talked so passionately about his mother and the relationship between the two. I actually cried. Parents are one thing, then they never label the child, no matter what you do, whatever you have become, or whatever challenges you have, right? But on the other hand, you see, there's so much trust in them and the belief that you spoke about, right? And that you're having business challenges, and your wife says that she has total belief in you where you can do that, right? That is such a huge thing for you that there is no price for that. On the other hand, think about somebody who has just lost $1 million business deal, and he's upset, and he just entered in his house, and the spouse says, I know you will never do that, or you will never make it. What impact does it have on that person for a lifetime, right? So relationships are very much, you know, very much empowering, and also very much, uh, you know, uh, draining as well, emotionally and physically as well, because they give you the power to fly, and they also give you they drain you, that you can, if you're flying, and you can just fall down like anything, right? That's why the resilience part is very much important. Total belief, total trust, no matter what. That's very important. And again, you respect the other person's individuality. That's very important.
The Team Performance Podcast.
This this respect and trust is important. We've talked about this in the past, but I want to go back to something you said, that oftentimes we're attracted, or it's easier for us to communicate with people that are very similar to us, right? You talked about how, the energy that I had, you related to that, and somebody else might not relate so well. Oftentimes in a relationship, in the beginning, it's those people that are like us that are easiest to connect with, because they don't, they have similar interests and all that. But what I find is that because we have similar strengths and similar interests, the dynamic of being able to solve problems isn't as strong as sometimes that person who is opposite. And opposites can also attract. I mean, Christian and I have talked about our spouses. We're very different than, my wife is very different than me in personality. Together, we have so many more strengths because she has different perspectives than I do. It's just, it can be more difficult if you don't have a strong relationship to keep that, to keep going, because sometimes, we disagree. But it's in that disagreement that, we're able to keep the car moving forward and be more productive. It just, we can't settle for those easy relationships. We need to be able to connect with those people that are different than us, because I believe that gives us great strengths. Can you talk about how to develop, how do you strengthen those relationships with people that may not be exactly like us?
Thank you. I totally understand your viewpoint, and it's a reality that that we face every day. One thing that I find that, like, if when you talk about personal relationship or even professional relationships, I primarily focus on personal relationships. It's opposites that complements each other. That's what you're saying, right? And that gives you different perspective. And when you complement each other, you get a greater bond, and you get, more strength, and even, you tend to get different viewpoints where you can see things and you can adjust with each other. But one thing I find that even with similar people, and you need to learn, right? That this is something that collectively we do. We are a great team, and these are our strengths. But these are things that we need to improve upon, right? And it's not that I have to learn everything. If we can have a role, like it's like raising children, right? For example, mother has a greater role in raising a child in certain things, and father has a certain role in disciplining the child. This is what in our society it's like that, right? So nobody interferes within each other's role. The problem actually happens if the father comes in and say, you need to do this thing like this. And the mother says, you need to discipline the child like this, but not like this. This becomes intimidating. And that's where the problem, you lose the balance, right? So even if you are similar on certain grounds, you need to learn different things to complement each other. This is what we do in our professional lives here, right? In personal lives, you need to balance each other out and say, hey, These are the things that we need to improve upon. I will take this, and you will take. I think you are good at these things, and this is the reality. The quicker you accept that, the quicker you will have the best of the relationship you ever had.
I have a question, Fahad. In your experience, typically, how long does it take to form a resilient relationship? You know, in a business environment, oftentimes through a corporate reorganization or leaving one job and joining another, you're thrust into a new team, or new teams are formed instantly, and then they are expected to perform exceptionally. And so um, you have all of these changes that happen. We don't always have total control of the people that we work with or the teams that we are a part of. And so, in your experience, how much time or how much grace period should be afforded to new teams to develop this foundation of resiliency?
Uh, Thank you, Christian. One thing I found that it's when you are actually ready to form a resilient relationship. It can ranges from like even the shorter period can be 3 to 6 months, and I've seen people working for even years and not forming that formidable relationship that is required for their position and for their roles, just because they are not actually the acceptance is not there. So the quick the that's I just said that when you're ready, you become resilient in relationship. Like for example, two people living under the same roof for like 25 years of marriage and still cannot form that bond, right? Because I'm just giving example of marriage, but it is the most closest bond that ever you can ever have, like with your partner or you with your spouse or whatever. So it is similar to in professional relationships. The moment you give in and you think about your own strength and other person's strength rather than your own other person's weaknesses and your strengths, and now you're ready to move on, you're ready for a relationship. And I've seen, like, for example, in PMI, we have like every other year, we have got new team members for 2 years and it keeps on rotating. So it's the team development cycle goes on forever, right? But again, the essence comes in after around 6 months or so when people leave out all their insecurities and start trusting their abilities and other person's abilities.
The Team Performance Podcast.
So once you've developed this resilient relationship, what does that mean? I mean, what's happening? What's the benefit? I mean, explain what happens once you've taken the time to develop that relationship. Why is it important?
It's important because if you are in a companionship with a person, a professional, you have an objective to achieve, right? For when you are working on professional, when you talk about professional life, you have a project, you have a deadline, you have a certain goal to meet, you have a business strategy to implement, you have certain revenue targets that you need to achieve as a team, right? So when you develop a resilient relationship, it goes beyond that, right? It's just not ends after 5 p.m. You hook up with your friends, have some beers, right? Even you have family gatherings, and now you become part of the family. It goes beyond that 5 or 6 p.m. bracket because now you've developed a bond that is far beyond that cubicle, and it's more sort of a person now, right? So you tend to achieve more. For example, one of my best friends, you know, uh, and he called me up and he said that we are friends like from the junior school, and he comes every single day to my house and we have eat together and like for 12 years. And then since our professional responsibilities tore apart and put us apart, so what and then he talked about certain personal things that I have never expected from him, right? And he asked my advice that I need your advice for certain matters, for very personal matters. And I was like, flabbergasted by the expression because how can he even can discuss with me something like that, right? But the type of relationship we enjoyed together help him to open his heart out and speak his heart out to me. That's very important. So in professional relationship, this is something else. In personal, for example, when two people are together, having a family, raising child, and having more financial strength, having a having want to give them want to give their children more better future. If they're well connected, they have good relationship, they're well bonded, they can achieve all of those things, and they can translate their strengths to their children. If that not is the case, then you know what happens, right?
You talk about how adversity can tend to drive people together. Talk about that. I mean, how do you find that happening, and is that happening today? With the COVID situation right now, is that you feel like that's bringing people together?
Uh, yes, as I discussed that as a society, we are kind of a very emotional people, and we tend to do certain things that are very common in other cultures. I have also seen other cultures very very colorful and very celebrating certain things. But when you have certain problem, a bigger problem like pandemic, you know, then and for example, some common friend got infected and he needs help, he needs to care, nourishment, and some me and somebody else who are not on good terms, but we know that we have a common connection that needs that is the priority of at this time. So we will keep our differences aside and ensure that the main objective should be done effectively, or it should be dealt effectively. The same thing happens with in relationships, in personal relationships. I've seen couples who are not good at terms, but if something happens to a child, they put their differences aside and work for the betterment or work for the nourishment or whatever that is required. Even though if you don't have a child, if you are on different terms on for certain things, and something happens to one of the partners, then everything is being left out. Whatever happened in the past, present makes more sense, right? This is how adversity makes you, makes you bond you uh, stronger, or you make you closer.
The Team Performance Podcast.
I really like that because, one of the things you said that I was impressed with is when we have adversity, it should hopefully cause us to be compassionate for each other, right? And put aside our differences and help each other because we're, brothers and sisters. We're
Yeah.
we get to care about each other. And I think that's something that is so important right now when people are struggling financially, mentally, with health issues and challenges, that we look for how we can help other people. And I think that's what you're saying is that these challenges give us an opportunity to put aside our differences and actually help lift each other.
Yeah.
Is that right?
If you allow me, so yeah, exactly. If you allow me, I would like to share a small, personal experience. Uh, 6 months ago, it's a January evening, and I was driving from work, and I fainted due. It was, my work was really challenging at that time, and I was really, under tremendous stress and sleep deprived and whatever you can think of, exhausted. And I was actually talking to one of my best friends, and we were having an argument, a very serious argument. And and while driving and having that argument, I actually fainted. I got blurry vision, and I was like, kind of dizzy. So what I said to her that, I'm feeling these conditions, and I think I'm going to, faint. And we were at such a crucial point in terms of argument that, in normal conditions, there was no returning back. Okay. But and what I did was I just parked my car, on the side of the road, and I never knew what happened next 15-20 minutes. When I actually woke up, I saw her standing right next to me and asking somebody to shift me to the other seat and took me to the hospital. And I was in ER for like 1 day, and then I was shifted to the room, and all my tests were done, and it was all okay. It was all just exhaustion and something. But that crucial moment that could have we can have that could have broken our relationship actually mended our relationship and took it to the new level. You know, that's my personal experience. So that is one thing I strongly believe that sometimes adversity can do miracles that in normal circumstances you cannot even experience.
I love that story, Fahad. Excuse me. I'll say that again. I love that story, Fahad.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It shows us the power of our choices, right? Because we could make a choice to break it, like you said, or we could make a choice to mend it. And your friend made a conscious decision to take action and try to mend it, and that actually made the relationship even that much more resilient. Our time is running short. We appreciate all the time that you've taken. I've got one more question for you. Spencer might have another question for you, but for my question, it would be this: in your experience, in your view, what's the most important factor that contributes to resilience?
Uh, Having confidence in other person. That's the most important thing. Irrespective of the credentials or the personality, you know that I know that Christian will be there whenever I need him. Spencer will always be there if I make even a short phone call after midnight, and he will leave everything just for that confidence and that expression translated into expression and communication to the other person. That is the essence of the resilient relationship. Because I've seen people who are very close, but they are unable to express their emotions and communicate that confidence in other person's you know ability or capability or attachment, and the other person spends a lifetime without knowing it.
The Team Performance Podcast.
You talked a lot about relationships and even talking about the relationship as a marriage. And some people listening to this might be a little uncomfortable with that. They're like, I don't want to have friends at work. I want to keep my work relationships at work. I don't want to go have beers or soda or anything with them afterwards. And they want to keep that separate, so they have their personal life and their work life. Some people are very proud about keeping those. They behave differently in those different things, which I think takes a lot of energy. But I want, if you can, just share with us as we wrap up. You talk about how these friendships or these relationships actually improve productivity. Can you give us some examples in your experience about why this is important? You've shared a few, but I want you to just reiterate how these relationships will increase productivity, and how does it impact, for example, turnover, solving problems, just dealing with the challenges of work. Why is it important that we invest the time to develop these resilient relationships?
Thank you so much. I will quickly share two stories. I've got a lot of stories to share. So, in 2012, I was working with one of the biggest insurance companies of Pakistan, and my direct manager was somebody who has been working for 5 years in the same company, and he was kind of unknown to every other person in the same department. He was kind of a mysterious person. Nobody knew about his personal life and professional life, and everybody think of him as a very selfish person. Uh, Fast forward 3 months, I joined the company, and we were having a conversation, and it turned out to be I just gave some positive opinion about relationships and family. And from that moment onward, you won't believe that that guy started opening up with me, my manager, and I got in a couple of weeks time, I got to know everything about him, his family, his father, his dad, his brother, his mother, whatever. And even though whatever even sometimes he comes to me and share that I have a really bad fight with my wife today, just on smaller petty things, right? So, and what I did, I just listened, and that emotion vanished, and the guy becomes a better person at communication. This is something very rare, because you don't have a bond with a boss like that. So, and everybody, yeah, in whatever I have experienced, it's rare that you have a bond with your boss like that. So, and in second, I have a team member who was a very shy person, and we work for a boss who's very kind of a pushy person, and who gets really edgy sometimes, and who he really comes hard at you. It is his way of teaching other people how to work, right? And the guy keeps on saying sorry, 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 and sorry, sir. And after one meeting, I told him, for the next 15 days, you won't say sorry one single time. Otherwise, I will not sign your confirmation letter. This is the only thing I want you to understand. Whenever we goes inside that room, you have a flat face and you won't say sorry. After 3 months, that guy becomes the best resource we ever had in our department. And he came to me and he said that now I know exactly how to handle our boss, and now I'm his favorite child, right? And he started that my boss started opening up with him, and they have a good relationship, work-wise relationship, and then they enjoy a relationship that was not normal for other people, right? So it is very important to have friends in the workplace who can help you to become better. It's not always about professional things, it's about personal things that you know if Spencer or Christian can even guide me upon how to control my temper or how to react in a certain environment, it can have a great impact on my personality, and I can be a very different person, and I can be a very much improved version of myself.
So
That's
you're
what
saying,
friendship does its work.
so you're saying these friendships allow you to navigate difficult situations, and that trust that you have in that relationship can make the workplace more productive, more effective to help you build relationships with other people. For example, this difficult boss, and I think that's a great example of how a friendship improved productivity and improved the satisfaction of not only the manager but the employee that was struggling.
Exactly.
Great story.
Yeah, the great stories all around, and great learnings and advice and recommendations for us that you shared with us today, Fahad. Thank you so much again for taking the time. If
Thank you,
people
John.
want to learn more about the work that you're doing with the Project Management Institute there in Pakistan, or connect with you to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to do so?
So currently, I am not associated with the chapter. I'm not the part of the global PMI EF Education Foundation team, and work with Southeast Asia. So if you want to connect with me, my email address is Fahad Ahmed S. You with the same name, Fahad Ahmed, and you can connect with me anytime you want, and I'm always there for you. And I would love to help you out and share my experience with you, and to be able to become more productive.
All right, I'm going to repeat that once more, Fahad, because the connection froze a bit and we weren't able to get your email address. So I'll just ask the question
Okay.
again, and you can go ahead and repeat it, and then I will edit it in post-production. So here's the question once more. Fahad, thank you so much for
Sure.
joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time. If people want to connect with you and learn more about the work that you're doing and the importance of resilient relationships, if they want to learn how to form better, more resilient relationships, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So my email address is fahadahmeds@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, social media. I'm a very active social media user. So I would love to assist you, guide you, or help you, and to be more productive at work and at personal relationships, and to share my experience with you.
All right, excellent, Fahad. Thank you so much. Spencer, if people want to connect with you and learn more about the work that you're
Thank
doing,
you, sir.
what's the best way for them to do that?
Contact me at
Spencer at altiumleadership.com. That's ALTIUM leadership.com, or go to altiumleadership.com to our website. Thank you.
And people can contact me at cnapier@gp4.com. That's gpfour.com. Go to the website, gp4.com, or look me up in LinkedIn or Facebook. Fahad, once again, thank you so much for taking the time. Listeners, please like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll join you in the next one.